Welcome to our channel, Beast Whisperer. The golden afternoon fell on the Serengeti grasslands. Dry winds blew across the vast plains as a majestic mother lion led her 3 cubs, teaching them to hunt for their first prey. They followed closely behind her, their yellow eyes shining with curiosity, eagerness, and instinctive wariness. After hours of stalking without catching anything, the family decided to find a place to rest. The base of a large rotten tree in the middle of the meadow became an ideal shelter on the hot afternoon. The lioness lay on her side, listening to the wind and the scent of the dry grass wafting around her. The 3 lion cubs began to play around the tree trunk, climbing and scratching their claws into the rough bark. Suddenly, a cracking sound came from the tree root, signaling potential danger. Before she could react, the entire rotten tree tilted violently and fell to the ground. The enormous weight pressed down on the mother lion's left flank, causing her to roar in extreme pain. The roar echoed across the grassland, mixed with the miserable cries of the 3 cubs. They ran around their mother, touching her sweaty fur with their noses, trying to help but to no avail. Tiny claws scratched at the dry bark, but the tree trunk remained motionless. Golden dust swirled in the afternoon sunlight. A few hundred meters away, 2 rangers, Daniel and Joseph, were patrolling in a pickup truck. Daniel frowned as he heard a roar mixed with small cries echoing in the distance. Joseph immediately turned off the engine and both men tilted their ears to listen, trying to determine the direction of the sound. Without hesitation, they grabbed binoculars, chains, and tranquilizer guns and charged through the tall grass. As they approached, the sight before them left both speechless. A mother lion trapped under a giant fallen tree, her eyes wide with despair. Behind her, the 3 cubs looked panicked, their mouths constantly calling for their mother. Daniel whispered, "We must act now, or it will be too late." Joseph nodded, unlocked the tranquilizer gun, and aimed at the mother lion's left shoulder. A soft pop was heard as the needle pierced her skin, and the medicine began to take effect. The lioness's body gradually relaxed, her breathing slowed, and her eyes half closed into deep sleep. Daniel signaled Joseph to check if it was safe to approach. Joseph took the chain from the car and wrapped it around the tree trunk near the breakpoint to create a lifting point. Daniel set up 3 handmade chains, hooking them tightly to a large, still-standing tree nearby. Sweat poured down their backs as they began operating the lifting system. The screech of metal and cables filled the air as the tree trunk lifted off the ground bit by bit. Dirt and wood chips fell like rain as the weight was gradually relieved. Joseph gritted his teeth, using all his strength to keep the tree from slipping. When the trunk was high enough, Daniel bent down and slipped his hands under the lioness's belly, pulling hard until her massive body was freed. The 3 cubs rushed forward, but Joseph gently blocked them to avoid danger. Daniel laid the lioness on her side on the grass, carefully checking each wound. There was no heavy bleeding, but her breathing was labored and her stomach rose and fell abnormally. Joseph examined her skeleton and suspected internal damage. "We have to get her to the vet right away," Joseph said firmly. Daniel nodded and prepared the vehicle and equipment. The 2 struggled to lift the mother lion's body, weighing over 150 kilograms, into the truck. The cubs were placed in a safe cage next to their mother to keep her calm. The pickup roared to life, heading straight for the Serengeti Veterinary Center. By the time they arrived, the sun had set and the center was brightly lit. A team of veterinarians quickly took the mother lion into a specialized emergency room. The cubs were placed in a large cage next to the treatment area to stay close to her. An X-ray revealed 2 cracked ribs and severe soft tissue damage, but no serious internal bleeding. Painkillers, anti-inflammatory drugs, and at least a week of rest were prescribed. Daniel and Joseph stayed close, watching every move of the medical team. Joseph brought fresh meat and water for when the lioness woke up. When she finally opened her eyes, her gaze was softer. She groaned, licking her cubs gently as they were allowed inside. One cub rubbed its head against her neck, making a soft cry. She drank water, ate, and her breathing became steadier through the night. The next morning, she attempted to stand, legs still shaking. She took a few steps before lying down beside her cubs. The veterinarians noted that her recovery was faster than expected. Day by day, her strength returned. Her movements became steady, and her eyes shone with resilience. By the end of the week, she could run short distances in the enclosure. The Conservation Board approved her return to the wild. Daniel and Joseph were tasked with escorting the family back to the grasslands. Early the next morning, the Lioness was lightly anesthetized for safe transport and placed in a large cage, with her cubs in a smaller one beside her. The pickup rolled down the dirt road into the wilderness. The golden Serengeti stretched ahead, dotted with tall acacia trees. At the release site, Daniel opened the cage and stepped back. The Lioness stepped out, breathing in the familiar scent of home. The cubs ran to her side, pressing against her sturdy frame. The family looked back at the rangers for a moment before heading deep into the grasslands, their figures fading into the golden sea. Daniel sat silently, watching until they vanished. "I believe she knows we saved her life," Joseph said softly. From afar came a low roar, a thank you to her rescuers. The sun climbed high, flooding the Serengeti with warm light. The workday ended, but the memory of that rescue would stay with them forever. This was the incredible story of how two brave rangers saved a mother lion from being crushed to death by a fallen tree, and the shocking turn her journey took afterward. If you want to hear more true and touching animal rescues like this, subscribe to Beast Whisperer and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story from the wild.